as they start, and then once you have to put a septic system in, or, you know, maybe a real high-end one, again, you start to look at those obstacles become, then the land shrinks down to a portion that's maybe not usable at all. So we end up with the commercial that we do have.
Yeah. All right, go on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, so again, that's what I would see would be the biggest obstacle, as far as what we have seen try to come to town in the years past and then kind of just fizzle away. We've talked with multiple companies about the land across from the drive-in, and everything sounds great at the beginning of talks, and then they fizzle away. When the Fino family was trying to work with, I think they tried to work with a Hess gas station once. They tried to work with Walgreens, CVS. CVS was actually, I believe, looking really promising, and then all of a sudden, same thing fizzled away. And the other obstacle is the fact that we really need to reconfigure. Sorry about that. We need to reconfigure the intersection here is, so say at Route 16 and North Ave, right? It becomes quite a bottleneck, and it's difficult for right now with everybody not working. It's not so bad. I see it every night when I'm trying to take a turn, you know, to come home to my house. But also, I'm starting to see that the traffic start to build up again, right? People are starting to go out again more. So I'm seeing that intersection, trying to take a left, cars trying to go around you on the right, with the other lane trying to do the same thing. It becomes pretty dangerous, and you know, especially in the summertime when that sun's shining down the hill, that people don't see the car that's going around the other, you know, the person heading to Milford that comes around the other side, and there's always a lot of accidents there. So by having the turning lanes and maybe some turning lights there, that would really help that intersection, as well as help one of the, I believe one of the things that CVS didn't like was that we were asking to have them reconfigure the intersection because of the traffic that it would generate. So that pushes back too. So our infrastructure, I would say, as a whole, is probably our biggest problem with trying to bring in that friendly commercial development to a rural community. You know, if you look at the CVS in Uxbridge, that ended up working out really well. That has a couple of lanes over there at that light. They reconfigured that intersection at the time. So that that would help out, especially that piece on the corner, and then open up for the development of a little bit more in the field per se, the old apple orchard.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
You know, we discussed at far back to the fall town meeting about recording meetings, and then with the interest of making things more transparent, or maybe that's not the best term, because I see, you know, in your questionnaire you answered that, you know, there's no issue with transparency, and probably a better way is just making the information accessible. You know, the FinCom approves our meeting minutes. We post our minutes even before they're approved, and then edit them and post them once they're approved, you know, again.
Right, draft.
The selectmen don't. And, you know, even these meetings that have been recently recorded haven't been posted. And you know, this whole group, you know, with Tom as the front person, really went to the floor and got this on the warrant. And, you know, a significant majority of people showed up at the meeting specifically to pass that. And the first thing that was discussed on the floor, you know, from town council was, well, this really isn't enforceable. I don't care if it's enforceable. The people want it. And I think it's been proven that it can be done fairly inexpensively. And I'd like to know if you have a problem with that, or if you would be willing to spearhead that if you get reelected, to make sure that it gets posted, so everything that the select board does is accessible, and people can look it up on the internet, find out what's going on. I think it would help, you know, because you just made a great point and gave some great information that, you know, you and I have had this discussion about economic development and all of these issues in town. We both lived here all our lives, and it just, people need to be able to get the information. And,
Sure.
and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I feel that we should do it, right? And you know, I wasn't favoring it at the town meeting because I felt, and I believe I said this at that time, that I don't believe it needs a town vote. It should already be happening. We should just be doing this. So what I will say is that although it was already being discussed, we highly accelerated it by the corona.
Well, that's good, because it's been 7 years since we first started talking about it. So
Sure. So, well, I've only been back for a year.
right. No, I completely agree.
I'm not blaming you.
No, I get it.
Right.
I was making light.
Right.
So so now that we've implemented the Microsoft Teams, and we've been doing it with the finance committee, with the selectmen, we now have the recordings. Dan is working to get a YouTube channel put up so that we're going to now, and we videoed we did it with the planning board meeting the other night. Conservation's first meeting is tonight. Board of Health meeting was the first one last night. So we are right now on the fast track to making this happen. Whether now, if there's a problem with minutes, okay, that's something that would need to be taken up with each individual board. And if it's the select board, then we'll why they're not out there yet, I don't know. I can look into it. I don't have an answer for you now.
Yep.
However, all these videos, all these meetings are now being recorded, and we're going to be posting them. And I feel that everybody seems to be okay with it. Nobody's pushing back. I think that if anything good came out of this virus, that this was one way to get people to see how actually good these types of recordings and meetings can be. So now that we would be able to set this up with Microsoft Teams in these other meeting rooms, we can still broadcast from the meeting rooms that we have the ability to do it from. But I think having these available, even if it's post-meeting, is a huge thing. Now you have a live version of the minutes, as well as possibly, you know, also what is actually written in the minutes. So although it probably helped to expedite it, this was something that I had already been working on, and we're now moving everybody to the Office 365 platform for the town, for all the emails, and Microsoft Teams comes with it. So we'll be able to have all of the boards be able to create these, start the recordings themselves. Right now, I'm the one that myself and a couple of other people are helping me out.
And thank you, by the way, thank you for being there for all of these meetings, making sure that it all works. It's been great to have somebody who's a professional doing that, and I appreciate that.
No problem. And thank you for saying that. But at the same time, that's the other hat I wear for the town as their IT guy, and I feel like that I need to be there to do that. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. Where this should be streamlined and running very efficiently, and I hope with the YouTube channel. And again, if we have issues with specific boards, regardless of who the board may be, we just need to address that to get the meeting minutes up. But even if they're slow on the meeting minutes, we're now going to be able to have the recordings almost instantaneously for people to rewatch, fast forward, get what they need out of it. Although the meeting minutes will help when they're tied to the video to be able to fast forward to, okay, this happened at 7:45. I can skip a button. Yeah.
Right.
So, but at least that immediately those videos will be available.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Do we have any other questions? I've got a question. So, you know, Mendon's a farming community. And there's a question on the ballot that I think you've expressed support for, to get rid of the farming tax that we impose on farm animals and equipment. But something I'd like to see is kind of a central Mendon-made farmers market. You know, even on the old apple orchard land, I think that would be something that, you know, I've talked to some of the farmers in towns, they've expressed interest in it. It'd be great to have it right on the main thoroughfare to kind of, I think it's a major draw for town because we do have so many farms. We have Vandervoort, we have Cedar Hill, we've got Greener Acres. It'd be great if we could find some way to get that going.
So
Would
and unless it's changed, but isn't that what they're doing on North Ave?
well, I know they have a community garden, but I don't know of any sort of stand or
So the
storefront.
way that I understood that, and I'd have to check with Ann again because things could have changed, and I know it's been slow going, but they were building that up there, and I believe that's why Mike Salvador was laying in all that those large pieces of ledge that were very flat. I believe there's a pavilion going there for a farmer's market. Now, again, it's not on our Route 16, but also maybe not, if it's not behind the field, it could be even on the other side across from the drive-in where it's just a little bit more level. I mean, are you looking to actually do the growing on site, or are you talking more just bring your goods?
Bring your goods, we kind of get a co-op going. I think this would be something that town could get behind. And we've discussed it in the Economic Development Committee before.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that piece of property that we have across from the drive-in, because it doesn't suit, it seems to, like I said, grow some legs and then it disappears, right? So
Right, exactly.
rather than just see it sit there, it's a very level piece of property, much more level than the town side, say, the old orchard side, because that's got quite a slope to it. And that already being flat and cleared and driven on is probably even a more suitable location, and still on Route 16, also across from a couple of businesses, right? That we would be able to set something up much easier there. But any location in town is
Right.
I'd be open to do it. I think it would be great. I mean, yeah, 100% behind that.
Excellent. Well, Lawney, thank you for coming. We have another participant coming in now. So
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, welcome to the Mendon DTC. We've been active for quite a few years. We decided this election that we should get involved because our local elections affect our everyday lives in many ways. Thank you for stepping up and running. And thank you for filling out our questionnaire. Love to give you a few moments to talk about why you're running, what you plan to do, and give some time for the members to ask some questions.
First of all, I got to tell you, this is only the second time I've ever been on Zoom, so I'm a little bit rusty with this.
Yeah.
I can't see your mouth. Can you see my movie?
Yes, I can.
My mouth is okay.
Awesome.
All right.
So
what? Why am I running?
What caused you to run? Tell us a bit about yourself and what you'd like to do.
Well, I've been on 2 select boards. In Provincetown, I was on the finance committee for 2 years, and then I was elected to the select board and then re-elected. And that was a 5-member board, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I loved studying the issues and asking tough questions. And then when I moved to Vermont, I got on the select board in Vermont. That was only a 3-member board, but after being on it for 8 months, I convinced the other board members to bring an article to town meeting to ask the town meeting members if we could make it a 5-member board, and it passed, and so we made a 5-member board up in Vermont, and it was much more efficient than the 3-member board.
Excellent.
And I enjoyed it up there too, just the same.
Awesome. So I know you're you've lived in Mendon a while, or you lived in Mendon, then you moved, and now you're back.
Well, I,
And
well, I moved to Mendon the first time. I moved to Mendon the first time in the 6th grade, and I graduated from Mendon High School in 1959. Then I went in the Coast Guard for 4 years. Then I became a sky marshal with the Treasury Department for a while, and then I had a business in Milford for 8 years, 2 businesses actually, and then I moved around the country. I spent time in Florida, California, Ohio. I've been around and seen a bunch of things. The last 30 years, I was a tree surgeon in Vermont.
excellent.
When I was in Vermont, in 1990, I ran for governor. I was a Libertarian candidate, and I came in 3rd out of 4 candidates. That was quite an education. I enjoyed that as well.
I'm sure. So what are some things that you'd like to see or spearhead if you were to get on the select board? What would some changes you'd like to make?
Well, I'd love to see the traffic slowed down, but it would take an effort of the police department. I tried to get them to buy one of those signs that tells you how fast you're going. You know, it tells you your speed and it tells you how fast you're going. And the chief says he has one, but it doesn't work. But I think 3 of them in town that you could move around would be a very nice thing. And then, of course, the police would have to enforce it. You know, the
Right.
thing is, I think the only street in Mendon that I think has a proper speed limit on it is Breakneck Road. It's 25 miles an hour. All the rest of them, I think, are 5 miles an hour too fast. But the thing is, if people went 35, that would be one thing, but they don't. They go 45, 55. And it really is, nowadays that we have so much traffic, of course, not right now during the virus, but now it's more of a problem than it was when I was a kid, you know. But I don't expect to be able to change that, because it's going to require help from other people. But one thing I can do, though, is ask tough questions. When I was on the finance committee in Provincetown, I asked a lot of tough questions. And one time I was absent from a meeting, and the chairman said, "Now, what question would Dave ask if he was here?" I built up a reputation for being tight with money. I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
Okay. Hold on.
David, not to put you on the spot, but what was the last year you were in Provincetown, what was the budget for the town?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I don't remember the
Well,
total
ballpark.
budget. I remember that. Well, I don't know that either, but I do remember that every year the town got $350,000 from the state in the taxes that they put on food and housing, and we used it to promote tourism. 350,000 every year we used to promote tourism, and it came from the meals and rooms tax. But I don't know the total budget.
Do you know what Mendon's total budget is this year?
I don't. No, I don't.
It's
I know how to look it up, but
It's 21 million.
excuse me.
It's 21 million, and about 12 million of it is the school. Am I right, Lee?
And now, is
Yeah.
that something we have a choice in? Because when I was in Provincetown, we were told we couldn't vote against the school budget.
Well, that's a similar situation here, where, you know, we have a regional school district between us and Upton, and the school committee
Right.
sets the budget. They have a budget hearing, they certify a budget, and then what happens is the towns have to agree to their, to their share. In this case, right now, we've provided them about $250,000 less than what they want, so they're going for an override. Now, Upton has decided to fund their the increase, the difference between what they were going to appropriate, what the school has asked for through their stabilization account. There's a couple of times in the past where they have had overrides that have passed for the school where ours had failed. So they had this excess that they've put away. So we're going for another override on the ballot. If you all requested, you'll see it on there. You know, to see if the townspeople will vote to you know, to give the override over the 2.5%. But I don't want to get you off track. I just wanted to know if you were aware of the, you know, the current financial situation of the town and the budget. That's all.
Yes, I was aware of that, of the school budget. And I've been going door to door. There's 2,000 houses in town. I've been going door to door. I've got 200 more to do, and I've done about 1,800. And a lot of times I hear from the people that they just don't like the amount of money spent on the school. A lot of people that on fixed incomes don't like the fact that taxes keep going up every year.
Yeah, I hear the same thing.
Right.
It seems to me the reason they came up with a 2.5 override was they didn't want it to raise any more than 2.5%. So I'd be opposed to going against it, to voting against the, you know, to going for the override. I'd be against it.
Right.
There was a reason that was put into law.
But I'm sure you'd agree, once you actually get on the town board and you realize the different constraints and situations, you know, really what 2.5 did was, you know, it gave the power directly to the citizens, you know, to vote.
Theoretically.
One person, one vote. Well, no, it works that way in practice.
Yeah.
And of course, this town, just like you said, multiple times, the townspeople have turned it down. And I think it works just the way that it's supposed to. It gives people the opportunity to get involved personally and take a vote, you know, and it stops it from rising too fast. But like I said, I wanted to get your feedback on it.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Do you have questions of me?
Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay, because it says I'm muted over here.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, we talked.
You're muted on your phone, but not on your computer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I keep forgetting I'm here twice. So I do have a question, actually. You mentioned that you spent a significant amount of money in P-Town on tourism. Now, Mendon has an issue. I mean, the problem is, the reason why we keep having to go for overrides is because we don't really have much of a tax base here in Mendon. Now, one of the major draws, I think, is that you know, we are a quaint, classic New England town, a lot like you know, near Byer, Vermont. We have lots of farms, and you know, on the Economic Development Committee, we've talked about the fact that Mendon is a destination spot. We have a zoo, we have a drive-in, we have a winery, we have lots of businesses that people come to town to take advantage of. Now, would you, as selectman, be willing to promote the idea of Mendon as a destination spot and help to make a cohesive way to highlight this? I mean, obviously people aren't going to come to Mendon for its beaches, but there are a lot of reasons people might take advantage of Mendon, and while still maintaining its character. Is this something you could see your experience in B-Town being advantageous in?
When you were talking, a lot of times your voice would go into like a waiver, and I couldn't understand what you were saying, but I think you're asking me if I would promote tourism, and the answer would be yes. But the thing is, there were a lot more farmers when I was a kid than there are now. We had more cows than we had people when I was a young year.
Yeah.
We had more cows than people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are a right to farm town, and I feel like we are losing that. And I feel like once it's gone, it's not coming
I
back.
think you've lost it. I don't think it's a farm town. I wouldn't call it a farm town anymore. I'd call it a car town.
Our town.
Yeah.
It is.
Filled with cars. And you know what? What bugs me a lot is that now Mendon used to be a destination place. They'd come here for Lowell's Dairy or the Redwood Drive-In or the movie theater, the drive-in movie theater or Southwest Wild Animal Farm. Now they just drive through Mendon to get someplace else. And that's why there's so much speeding traffic, driving through Mendon to get somewhere else.
Gotcha. So you mentioned the drive-in and the zoo, and that's kind of what I was saying, is it could be a destination spot. And I feel like we're not taking advantage of that. So I think we're kind of in agreement about that. It sounds like.
Yeah, we could promote the desirable things better, I think.
Okay. Any other questions?
Rand, you had one.
Oh, well,
Just
yeah.
the simple thing. The simple thing of contacting the Boston TV stations and asking them to put Mendon on the weather map is something.
Mendon
Has
on
anyone
there.
ever tried that?
Oh,
That's a simple thing,
so
but
Mendon gets publicity.
Mendon on the weather map would be a good thing for tourism.
Okay, so what's your
Oh,
question?
well, yeah. Well, when we interviewed Lawney Tinio a little while ago, and a good deal of the conversation focused on ways to make it possible for small to medium-sized businesses to find a home here, and some of the obstacles in the path of that. And one of the longstanding obstacles has been availability of water and sewer service. And how do you see that whole issue?
Well, one of the people I visited when I was going house to house two people actually had an issue with water. One guy, his well has failed because somebody was doing some blasting and it destroyed his well, and now he's carrying water. The other person was a woman. She was worried about fire protection and not having enough water in the area if there was a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And she was wondering if we're ever going to have town water. And I said, well, the expense would be prohibitive, I think, to have town water. I think we just got to be more careful of how many wells we allow in town and where we allow them. And town sewage would be the same problem. I mean, you have so much ledge in Mendon, and blasting all that ledge to put pipes in every road in town would be just cost prohibitive. I don't think you could do it.
Yeah.
I don't think you could pay for it.
Now, the couple areas that do have water, down on Cape Road and down Route 16, would you think there's a possibility of expanding those? Because I mean, those are our two primary commercial areas in town. But due to the
They get it from Milford, does it?
what?
Do they get it from Milford or
Actually,
Hopedale?
we get it from Hopedale, and we're in a contract with Hopedale that we have to constantly be seeking a new source of water. So,
Well, if they already have it there, I'm sure we can promote that area as far as businesses.
yeah, right. I mean, the issue is the contract doesn't allow us to add more properties onto it. And Hopedale doesn't seek.
Oh.
So, I mean, this is just food for thought. There's Bellingham, there's Upton as possibilities, but yeah. Is there any other questions?
Do you know, because this is kind of beside the point, but do you know if there's going to be a Memorial Day celebration in Mendon this year?
I thought I saw that they canceled it and are doing something alternative instead.
It was published that it was canceled, but there is going to be a streamed
That's what it is. Yeah.
mobile Memorial Day celebration where a group is going to go around town and they're going to broadcast it or stream
Oh.
it.
Excellent.
Oh.
We have another person coming in a moment. Thank you so much for joining us, David. Thank you for stepping up, and thank you for taking
I
part.
probably should tell you one thing. Can I tell you one thing?
Absolutely.
I put out my yard signs on Monday, first day we could do it.
Yep.
Put them out Monday morning, and by Monday night, one of them was stolen.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have.
I made a police report about it. Excuse me?
You know, politics gets crazy sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I don't understand that.
All right.
There it is.
Yep. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much. You have a great night. Next up, we have
Yep.
Jay Byer, who's running for moderator for another term.
Oh, can I mention one? Can I mention one thing before I go?
Absolutely.
I'm also conducting a write-in candidacy for the Mendon Housing Authority.
Oh, excellent. There's nobody running for housing
All right.
authority as far as I know, other than
Right,
you.
they gotta write my name in.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, so if
Right.
13 people
Thank
do
you.
that, you might get in.
Yeah. Right. Well,
Yeah,
thank
you never know.
Great.
Yeah, you know,
Take care.
have a
Great.
good
Thank
one.
you.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Yep.
This again. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Mendon DTC has been very active the past few years, but one area we just are really breaking into is local elections, because these local elections are some of the most important, affect our day-to-day lives, and we really wanted to get a sense of where the candidates stand, and the opportunity for our board to ask questions.
Sure.
So, Jay, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your time as moderator, why you're seeking another term, and then we'll give the members an opportunity to ask some questions.
Sure. I think I said some of this in the questionnaire I sent back to you. I've lived in
Thank you
Mendon
for
since
filling that out.
1988, I believe, is when we moved here, around the year that Daniel was born. I served on the school committee from 1998 to 2007. Decided not to run for a fourth term, mostly because I think after a point it's time for some new people to get involved. So I kind of took a step back. A couple years later, I still wanted to do something for the town. The moderator position was open at that point. Kevin Rudden was the moderator prior to me and decided not to continue to run. And I feel like it's a way that I can contribute to the town and hopefully do a good job. I've been doing it now since 2009, I believe, is when I was first elected. And I try to do a good job, and hopefully people like the way I handle the meetings, and that's about it. You know, I'm seeking another term because I'm not ready to stop yet unless the voters don't want me anymore.
Excellent. Well,
Hey,
thank
Tom, how come I have you twice on my screen?
What?
I have you twice on my screen.
Well, one of them shouldn't be a video, right?
No, one of them is just a picture of you in a tie. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's my backup in case my computer goes on the fritz like it did.
oh, okay. I thought maybe it was just to show the professional side of you.
Yeah.
That's the scout in him being prepared.
Oh, okay, okay. Someone taught him well, his father.
Having a plan.
Well, that was more his mother, I think.
Oh, okay. So that's about it as far as myself. I mean, other than that,
Do you
just, you know,
have any questions?
I do not. I do not.
Well, do any of the members
Oh.
have any questions?
So I take it that you enjoy doing the job. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, I do. I try to have some fun with it a little bit. Maybe I go overboard a little bit as far as the kind of fun I have. I tend to say, you know, I tend to be a little bit of a, I guess I'll use the term even though it may not be allowed. I'm kind of a smart ass sometimes, and I try to bring a little bit of humor to it and make it so that the meetings are at least a little bit more enjoyable than just bland. But yeah, I do have fun doing it, and that's why I keep doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. I don't find it to be overly cumbersome. It's kind of challenging sometimes depending on how the meeting's going, but I try to have fun with it, and hopefully I do, and hopefully people appreciate that. Like I said, if they don't, then they'll vote for someone else.
Well, I've got a question. In this time of social distancing and coronavirus, I know some towns have conducted their town meetings, in a socially distant manner outside with everybody spread out. Other towns have postponed it. Some towns have canceled them completely. How do you conduct one of these meetings right now?
Well, so that's going to be the challenge for us going forward this year. As you know, the meeting tentatively was scheduled for June 1st. That no longer is a viable date unless the selectmen approve the warrant by Monday morning, because it has to be posted on Monday in order for June 1st to be the date that works. I'm sorry, did I say June 9th? That's the election, June 1st. I have not really been involved in the discussions as far as when the meeting will be held. Ellen and I have talked about logistically, how could we do that? So we've looked at the gym as opposed to the auditorium. I believe we can set up chairs that are 6 feet apart, rows that are 6 feet apart to help people keep their distance. You would only be able to get probably about 75 to 100 people in the gym that way. So depending, typically for a town meeting this year where there's going to be a school override, typically you would get more people than that, but you may not get that this year just because, people may not want to come out. You could do it outside, but you're subject to heat and weather. So that makes it a little more challenging. So I don't know. I wanted to know why we couldn't do it like this, because there are features within Zoom to allow for this, but I am told that you physically have to, if in order to vote, you have to physically be present at the town meeting. There has to be a physical presence. So until the laws change, that's not an option. I was told by Kim Newman maybe it was yesterday, now that I'm thinking of it, that she's hoping to do it I think she said, I'm looking at the calendar, I think she said June 29th, which is the last Monday of the month. And so I think that's what she's looking for, but the Board of Selectmen have to make a decision. My involvement as far as when it's scheduled only happens after it's been posted. So until the meeting's been posted, the selectmen get to set the date. Once it's been posted, then they need me to okay it. I'm not all that picky about it. I would like to hold it, quite honestly. I think we need to get it done. I don't know what's going to change between June 1st and June 29th. I think if we're waiting for the perfect, everything's clear and everybody's perfect again, that may not happen for a year. So I don't think we can wait a year. I think we need to get our budget approved for the town, which I believe is all that's on the warrant, although I haven't seen the warrant yet either.
Well, I can tell you that it's the budget and a few money items. Most are usually on the consent calendar.
Right.
But the budget and the override is the big, issues.
Right.
And you're right. She did say June 29th. I'm not sure what, like you said, Jay, I don't know what's going to change between the 1st and the 29th. It's still going to be socially distant, social distancing. Unless I'm mistaken, we don't have a quorum in Mendon.
Correct.
So,
you can have.
we could just hold it in the auditorium and just, limit the number to whatever it can be, and then that's just it. But
well, see, I don't know that you can limit who can participate, and that's the challenge. Is if 300 people show up, you've got to let them participate. So that becomes the issue. I mean, you do want people to participate and be part of the process. Is there anything
barring it from happening over Zoom?
Yes, state law. You have to physically be present to vote in the room. You can't even, theoretically, as you know, with Zoom, there's what they call a raise hand feature. So you can call a vote, have people raise their hand and count, but that's not allowed by state law right now, and the governor hasn't really changed that. I do know legislative bodies are exempt from the gatherings of less than 10 or less than 50 or whatever those numbers are, so we could hold it. I was kind of advocating to do it on June 1st and just do the best we can. I understand the caution that maybe people wouldn't come out June 1st, but maybe would by the end of June if things have subsided more. As Mike just said, I think the big issues there are the town budget, which I don't expect there's going to be a lot of discussion. So the real big issue that's on the warrant is going to be the override for the schools. And I don't know if there's going to be a lot of discussion on that either. I have really heard little or no discussion yet out in the world, what people think about the override. So I can't really give you an answer on that.
If you could have, if we could have, use the auditorium as a fallback, could we do that in addition to the gym?
That was something I threw out there. You would need to be able to stream it from one location to the other. So wherever you have, like wherever I am and Ellen are, let's say that's the gym or the auditorium, and you want to have it in the other area, you've got to have the technology to make that meeting available to them. And I don't know, somebody would have to talk to World Band or somebody. The school district doesn't have like cable type stuff. I know at graduation at the high school, the Upton Cables channel comes and actually records it and broadcasts it on the screen in the auditorium. But, and you could do it that way, hold it in the auditorium or the gym. And if people want to speak, they have to go from one location to the other. It would be a little more difficult, but it could be done. Again, I'm not against any of it, but I don't have the equipment or the skill set to set up the technology necessary to run it in 2 locations and have it available to everybody.
Does Upton have that skill set?
Well, their Upton Cable company, they have a couple of people that work for through their contract with the cable provider. They have a couple of people that come and record all town meetings. So they do have the ability to do that. We don't have that in Mendon. We don't have somebody from the cable company that comes and records stuff. How they would stream it. I mean, you know, we could do it. I think it can be done. But again, I have not been part of really any discussions on anything so far. So other than postponing it from May 1st to June 1st. So I don't know what the thinking is. I don't know what the selectmen are talking about. I know they were supposed to talk about it tonight. I think they had a meeting and they postponed that meeting till Monday.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens on Monday.
Yeah.
Now, electronic voting. I know it's something that was briefly discussed. Is this something the town or you would like to look into doing?
I have very mixed feelings on that. Quite honestly, I think for the number of times you really need electronic voting because you really have a close vote and it would make it quicker and more accurate are so small that the cost of doing it. I did some research with that way back when that came up, I think about a year and a half ago now. And I was given quotes of anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 per meeting to, you know, spending $30,000 to buy the equipment and then having people run it yourself. Upton did a study. I mean, I came to the Board of Selectmen and talked to them about it. They wanted to wait and see what Upton chose to do because they had put together a committee to research it. Ultimately, Upton decided against it, mostly because of cost, but again, because there's not enough occasions. I mean, I went through all of our town meetings since I've been moderator, and I'd say less than 3% of them were a hand count that were close enough that it mattered, that, you know, it wasn't viable. So I don't know. I'm not against it, but again, I'm not sure that the town needs to spend money on electronic voting when there's a lot of other things the town probably needs to address and direct money towards.
Yeah.
One last question. Well, does anyone else have a question? Okay, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen happen at a town meeting?
The craziest thing ever happened at a town meeting. Do I have to have been moderator during that time?
Not necessarily, no.
You know what? I don't know that I've seen anything really crazy. There are times when I hear people say things and I shake my head and wonder, like, what are they thinking? I don't think I want to start, you know, saying, well, this guy said this or this guy said that. You know, I probably, the craziest thing that ever happens is me forgetting to go to the finance committee to get a recommendation when I'm supposed to, which I forget and continue to forget after 10 or 11 years of doing it. But luckily, Mr. Maroli reminds me, and Mr. Burke reminded me before that, and Mr. Schofield reminded me before that. So you'd think eventually I'll get the hang of it. But beyond that, nah.
But that could be a promise for your next term.
No, I don't like to make promises. You know, if I fall down, it comes back to bite me. You know, I mean, ultimately, I think the moderator's job is to be as impartial as possible. I try not to, like, learn about different sides of an issue because that could bias me in one way or the other. I mean, obviously, I do have opinions, but I try to keep them to myself as best I can. You know, I like to say I like to go in there ignorant, and that way I don't, you know, steer things one way or the other. I think the only thing I probably need to do a better job of is what the ground rules are. I think that I tend to be a little bit lax in letting some back and forth stuff go on, just because I think you get more out of it, but then it can tend to go off kilter if you don't keep it under control. And that's probably the hardest thing about being moderator, is keeping everybody focused.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jay. Thanks for filling out your questionnaire, and thank you for stepping up yet again.
Thanks. I appreciate the time. I see many familiar faces here. I see a former piano tuning customer down in the bottom here on my screen. People haven't seen in several years, but I see them a lot. So it's nice to see people and see that you're still involved. And I appreciate your help on everything.
Thank you.
All right.
So you have a great night, Jay.
Thanks. I appreciate it. You guys too. Have a good night.
So, hello, Matt. You are running for moderator, correct? Thank you for coming. Mendon DTC has really been ramping up our involvement in town. Local elections matter, especially they impact our everyday lives. So we really wanted to get involved in this year's local elections. And one way we do that is by interviewing and possibly endorsing candidates. So thank you for joining us. I know you filled out a questionnaire beforehand. Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you are running for moderator, and then we'll open it up to questions from the membership.
Sure, certainly. Once again, thank you guys for having me on tonight. Really excited to be here. A little bit about me, for anyone that doesn't know, living in town my entire life. I graduated NITMUC in 2016 now, been about 4 years. If you want to say I graduated college, I guess I graduated college. We didn't have a graduation this year, as everyone else did. But I graduated Suffolk University, got a degree in politics, philosophy, and economics. In the fall, I'll be starting at Suffolk University Law School. We'll be pursuing a joint JD and Master of Public Administration. So very excited for that. Pardon me. And why I'm running for moderator, I took a look at the offices in town this year, and I said, where can I best have an impact? And I really think that the moderatorship was that position. Partially because yes, I will be a law student in the fall, so I can't really give my voice full time. The moderator's job only really is a couple times a year, so that's really great. But also just the job itself, it really seems like something I'm suited for. As I listed in my questionnaire, I am a Northeast Regional Debate Champion, so I know the ins and outs of public debate. But I understand that it's not the moderator's job to insert himself into that debate. It's more so to steer the conversation. And recognizing the ins and outs of rhetoric in its varied forms, I really feel like I'll be able to control the debate and steer it in such a way that everyone will be able to have a say at town meeting. So.
Do we have any questions from our members? Anybody? All right, well, I've got one. In your questionnaire, you mentioned that you'd like to have a column in the town crier, kind of a moderator's corner.
Right.
What types of things what types of things do you think you could highlight there? If
Sure.
you're elected.
So basically, I kind of want to use it as an educational opportunity for folks in town, because it really is my belief that the more people learn about what town meeting is, what its purpose is, the more folks are going to want to come. So I would really want to use it for just teaching folks about the various intricacies of town meeting, like how to get an article on the warrant, how to take part in the debate during the town meeting itself, and really get folks excited about it. Even talking about the history of town meeting, its roots in the very foundation of New England democracy. So I really want to use it as an opportunity to get in there, get folks involved, but also serve, besides just educationally, just public service announcements kind of. You have to get your articles into the warrant by or by this day or do whatever by that day. Just to kind of serve as a voice for the town meeting. And I would also roll that into the Facebook page that I mentioned I'm going to hopefully be able to put on. That'll be more of a regular thing with engaging with folks on a almost daily basis. I know that the town crier only runs runs bi-monthly. That'd be a little bit less frequently. But I would like to roll that as well into a Facebook page as well to communicate with folks on a very regular basis.
Hmm.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I actually did have a question.
Sure.
Since you've completed a college degree, you're going to do law school.
Mhm.
How do you see kind of what career direction do you ultimately want to pursue?
Sure. Ultimately, I do see myself going into some sort of state or local government role. But in the immediate future, I really do. I would like to be a practicing attorney for a couple of years, specifically either in criminal law or in some sort of contracts situation. I've really just felt myself, kind of going in that direction for the last couple of years. And I really think being an advocate for people that can't fight for themselves really is where I want to go.
Pat, can you tell us about the other positions in town government you've
Sure.
served in the past?
Sure. So since the spring of 2018 now, so about two calendar years, I've served both as an elected representative on the Water Commission and as an appointed representative on the Capital Planning Committee. I ran for the Water Commission back in 2017 for the first time, and I did not make it. I lost by a razor-thin margin of 8 votes to Mr. Alan Kent, a great guy. So I ran again the next year, and I was able to finally secure a spot. And over the course of the last 2 years, we've done some really great work talking about the possibility of, expanding the water system to bring in more water, to aid commercial development, hopefully offset the residential tax burden, and a lot of other cool stuff. And then with the Capital Planning Committee, done a lot of great stuff there as well. Trying to get new equipment for the fire department, new stuff for the highway department, and right now we're trying to complete a capital master plan for the town. We had to put it on hold a little bit because of COVID-19, but once this is all over, we're going to get right back into it and press on with that.
A capital what?
So a capital master plan. So what it is basically the purpose of the committee, for anyone that doesn't know, is we're kind of an advisory committee to the finance committee. And we're just, taking a look at all the capital needs of the various departments of town government. That's like an expenditure of over a certain dollar amount with a depreciation rate of over a certain number of years. And we're going to try to give our suggestions and prioritize. It's not really binding in any sense. It's more so just kind of a guidebook for the selectman, for the town administrator, to kind of look for.
Okay.
I believe Peggy Veal's raising her hand.
Yes.
Hey there.
What I wanted to ask was, in your column in the Crier,
Right.
would you use, as you're talking about the history of town meeting and so forth, would you expand ever into basic civics? Because I had lots of civics in high school, and I'm an old lady, but I'm appalled at how little most people know about government.
Right.
Astounding.
Yeah, so I definitely would. One of the brightest parts of my life is that I'm able to each June take part in American Legion Boys State. Now what that is it's put on by the Legion, and it's basically civics camp for high school juniors. There's Boys State and there's Girls State, and they happen in Massachusetts at least during the same week on Stonehill College's campus. And during that week, I'm in charge of personally responsible for about 35 boys in a hypothetical town. You're divided up into towns and cities, and you put on a town government. I went to the program back in 2015. I was elected mayor of my city and a U.S. senator, went on to Boys Nation, met President Obama. It was a great time. And I've been going back ever since to teach civics to young guys. And I would definitely take bits and pieces of the lessons that I've learned from there and inject it into this column and just my general attitude with the office. I know that if I were allowed to, I would love to go to the high school, both Nipmuc and BVT, and speak to the kids when they're about, sophomores, juniors, when they can really handle the conversations in a mature way, and get them involved and get them excited about town government, because that was about the same age that I really got excited about it. And that's what I would do. So with the column, I would also expand into, basic lessons about civics. So, like I said, what the purpose of town meeting is, how to bring articles before the warrant, And I would try to stay out of as much as I can actually commenting on the issues, because that wouldn't be my place at all. It would more just be, here's what it is, here's how you can participate. You know, regardless of what your position is, left, right, up, or down, just make sure you have your opinion, you can support them with facts, and how to articulate your positions even.
Now, I have another question.
Sure.
And I know that you ran for water board and became elected while you were going to school in Boston, and you're going to continue doing that in the fall.
Right.
How did you manage attending water board meetings while you were a student? And
Sure.
Did you have an issue making meetings, and how many were you there, and how many weren't you there? And
Sure. Initially, there were a couple meetings that I did miss as a result of just traffic and whatnot, getting back from Boston. But that's since kind of gone away. As number one, I've standardized my school schedule, so I'm able to come back to Mendon for meetings. I actually do live in Mendon. I lived here since the spring of last year, and I plan on continuing to live in Mendon for the duration of law school. So my schedule with school would be such that I'd only have it on certain days. I wouldn't be going in every day. And I could plan well in advance, especially with the moderatorship where it's not, monthly meetings. But I would like to actually, as I mentioned in my questionnaire response, that I would like to build in monthly meetings with anybody that wants to talk about town meeting. I don't know who would want to talk about town meeting besides me, I guess, months in advance. But if anybody does want to talk about it, I'm going to make myself more than open to be available to meet with folks on a monthly basis.
So I have another question. Electronic voting. I mean, it's an issue that's come up before, actually in quite a few towns, implementing this system at town meeting. Is this something you'd be in favor of?
I think if it brings more folks to town meeting and opens it up to more people coming and giving their opinion, it's something I definitely want to look into. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, just conceptually. But again, I think that I will do anything to bring more people to town meeting, because I mean, it's the same 150 or so people that go, and that's not a bad thing. It just means that those 150 or so people have an outsized voice in our government. And I think that the entire objective. What's that?
150 at a good meeting. I mean,
Exactly.
That's a large meeting.
Exactly. Now, my objective is to get folks excited about town meeting. And I know that makes me look like a huge nerd, but that's okay. I mean, that's what I really want to do. I don't want town meeting to be an institution where we say at the beginning, all right, folks, we're going to get in and get out as fast as we can. I know we all have more important things to do. Like, sorry, no. Like, if it has to take 2.5 hours, it has to take 2.5 hours, because this only happens once or twice a year. I'm not going to disrespect anybody's time, but what we're going to do is we're going to really dig into the issues at hand and have real discussions. And we're going to allow folks to bring forth their issues. And so long as they aren't repeating themselves, disrespecting anybody up on stage or anybody else in the audience, they're going to be allowed to talk. Because nothing is worse than being told that you can't, bring your opinion when you're a tax-paying citizen of this town. So that would be my mission as town moderator, to respect everybody that brings forth an opinion, and allow them to give their opinion without letting them, drone on or disrespect anybody. Because that's what the essence of this town is. It is small government democracy. It's the essence of New England town meeting. And I really hope to restore some professionalism and excite some folks about the institution.
so, Matt, when were you elected on the water board?
Sure, that was the spring of 2018, and I first ran in the spring of 2017 when I was a freshman in college.
So it's been 2 years,
It's been 2 years. Yep, I have one more year on that.
and you say you missed a couple of meetings.
Yep.
I'm asking you specifically just because the moderator needs to be really specific and, like you said, straightforward.
Right.
What's a couple of meetings?
That's
Two meetings
a good-
out of 2 years or more?
Probably about 4 meetings.
4 meetings. And how many times did the water board meet a year?
It was like probably once a month, but sometimes it's been a little more infrequently.
But not all 12 months of the year, right?
Correct.
So do you know how many times a year the board missed? How many times the board met?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, and do you know for a percentage of how many meetings you actually, as a percentage, what would you say, how many meetings did you miss? Was it 20%?
Probably around like, I mean, assuming we had 12 a year. I know my first year, it was a little tough just with school, but since then I've really, kind of mastered the whole commuting back from Mendon to Boston.
So in the last year?
Yeah. Probably less than 20% that I've missed. So I've been to more than 85% of the meetings.
So it would be wrong if to say that you've missed 90% of the meetings since you were elected.
I would say that, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? I got one.
Yeah.
So as from one philosophy nerd to another,
Mhm.
who's your favorite philosopher?
Ooh, John Locke.
I'm a Hegel guy myself.
Are you really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. No, I like John Locke. Just his theory laid out in the Second Treatise on Civil Government, talking about the just powers that derive from the consent of the governed and how it influenced, the framers of the Constitution. That really gets me going. Just the idea that if people don't like what's going on with their government, they have the power to change it.
Yeah, I'm Hegel and Rousseau, actually. They're
Cool.
probably about tied. Humanity born free, but everywhere they're in chains.
Right.
Absolutely. Locke's a good one. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt. Thank you for filling out the questionnaire. Thank you for being involved. And thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Have a great night.
Take care.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mhm.